It's great to see that across two different tracks, Monaco on the high downforce and Montreal on the lower end of the downforce spectrum, we're able to be competitive and in the hunt for points at both. And in fact, not just the hunt for points, but I think Alex had real potential in Montreal 9th, or maybe slightly better than that. It's obviously frustrating to walk away with no points, but I take solace, I take pride and happiness from how we have moved forward from the beginning of the year, and more importantly, that across different tack characteristics we are performing. And that bodes well for the triple header that's coming up with Barcelona, high downforce track, which is different again in sequence to Austria, which will be a sprint this weekend, and then finally Silverstone. Where we are in terms of our learning across the weekend as well is that performance wasn't just limited to slick tyres. Whether it was the conditions at the beginning of the race, which were more X-wet, where we were competitive, then transitioning to the interconditions where we were competitive, in fact making overtakes on cars, and back into those slick tyre conditions, the car was always there or thereabouts. It's a good foundation to work from. Welcome to the Vowles Verdict, presented by Kraken. In FP1, we had that very difficult condition where it wasn't quite interconditions and it really wasn't quite slick tyre conditions either. So as you saw, a number of cars went out in the inter at the beginning. We tried to limit the number of laps that we were doing simply because that same inter has to go between FP1, FP2 and FP3, and there was rain forecast for all 3 sessions. The second element of that is, why didn't we go out on the slicks earlier? We did go out, but only for a lap, which wasn't sufficient to generate the tyre temperature we needed. That one's simply just about what is the learning we're going to really get out of it? What will be the conditions across the remainder of the weekend? And is what we're doing right now valid in that learning cycle? And what we're more interested in is the start at the end of the session, perhaps more so than getting a number of laps where cars are doing 1 minute 24s. And as you saw in the dry conditions, it's actually many, many seconds on. So that was the main reason why we limited the number of laps. You can see we've been adding weight-saving parts. What you can't always see is what other performance tools we've been adding to the car, and there's been a few of them. What I do is step away from the aerodynamic sides for a second and just bring this up. Monaco, first of all, there was an aerodynamic gain. It was a rear wing, which we call rear wing 70 internally, but it's a larger rear wing on Alex's car, which was performant, and you'll see that turn up again in Barcelona. So there's additions, but just not through the underfloor dynamics you're necessarily expecting to see elsewhere. The second thing is we have added performance. You simply don't move forward through the field unless you've been doing that, and it's not just through weight saving. Answering the question more formally though, when will we see aerodynamic performance? Well, there will be performance adds across the next few race weekends with a very substantial package, probably post triple header. So that's sort of the timelines for when you'll see the first package, and certainly not the last package we add of the year. But that doesn't mean we won't be adding performance. There's quite a bit to come over the next few races. The upgrades in this sense were a little bit of lightening, which definitely all performed. That one, really, I've tried this many, many times across my career. When you take a kilo or 2 off the car, it just translates. So yes, in that regard, but it wasn't just that. There was actually a few other performance items, and some of them around specifically steering and suspension setup. And there's a little bit more learning to be done. They're performing, but there's more learning from it, which is a positive. It means there's more performance to come. The DNFs we have were damaging, there's no doubt about it. However, they won't impact on the long term. And if we think about it this way, we're only a third of the way through the season, so we have 2/3 of the season left. They won't impact on the upgrades that we had coming through on the pipeline. But as an example as to where we are limited, the floor that Alex was running was a very good specification of floor, and that simply will take time to repair. And in the meantime, we had to get the other floors up to that spec anyway. It's just additional workload, but nothing that causes me concern. I think it's realistic that Alex could have finished 9th in that Grand Prix. It's hard to know where you would have been ahead or behind that point because a safety car obviously changed the conditions somewhat, but we were quick on all conditions, but especially on those slick tyres, we were actually saving the tyres. We weren't pushing them, and there's quite a bit of performance left to come. The positives are the following. First and foremost, Alex, I think, has deserved overtake of the year because he did not one, but two cars going into the last corner of the track, which personally brought a smile to my face in what was a difficult real weekend overall. The positives are the ones I really started with. We had a car last year that was strong at Montreal as well as one of the tracks, but very, very weak at others. We've built a car that has proper foundations now, and that's why we go to high downforce tracks that are very intricate and tricky and rear overheating to tracks where it's all about straight line content more so than anything else and are performant at both. That bodes well for the remainder of the season. And it's easy to get caught up in here's where we are and this is where we are in the season. There's a long way left to go, many, many races to go. In many regards, a normal old-fashioned race season of races left in terms of quantity. And also there's a lot of performance coming in the pipeline. So there's every reason to be optimistic going forward. And what I enjoy about this weekend is that the balance changes we've made, foundation changes and the aero developments are having an impact and are working. We had a car that was well balanced, that was usable to drivers, that they feel comfortable irrespective of the conditions, irrespective of whether it was dry, intermediate and wet. And again, that's important because those tires do change the aero characteristics of the car, and yet no ill effects were seen. The other aspect is it was quite windy, and again, the car worked well in those conditions all weekend. So those are the positives I can draw out of it. It sort of leads into the previous answer, but I'm not sure you're going to see any one track where this car is particularly very quick or very poor. I still think, and it's a little bit just my gut feeling, that Monza will still suit the car very, very well. But I hope that you also see that we're in a position where we move forward relative to teams at all the other tracks, more based on the performance we're adding to the car than anything else. The answer is really simple. Everything is about the long term. We're here not to be fighting for 9th or 8th, 7th this year, but rather to be putting in place the foundations, the real building blocks that need to be done so that we can turn out performance at a much higher rate and move forward across the years beyond now. And that's also going to apply to 25. 25 is what I still call short term in the grand scheme of things. 26, 27, 28 are where real items that we're building in the background, that includes people, infrastructure, systems, processes, will start to kick in and have a real effect. It is a long way away. It feels a long way away. But if we try and shortcut any of those items, we'll do a worse job in our future. And this isn't about today. This is about a team making its way back up in a field of competitors that are champions in their own right. That's tough to do, and it doesn't happen overnight. But I am confident the pathway we're on is the right one. Wind back just 2 years, we were 10th. Last year, solid year, building across the year with a very good update that started the direction of travel we're in at the moment. And the car today, I hope everyone is now realizing, is a competitive car, but heavy. We'll get the weight off and it will move forward and there's performance to come. But those are all good signs, but they're still short term. The real long term is how do we transform that into performance that allows us to move forward up the grid significantly. Everything into long term development.